Hey guys, Harrison One back at it once again for a brand new video for you, and welcome to my new yearly tradition. Well, maybe not new, if it's a yearly tradition. Whatever. My yearly tradition of my top 5 list for the 2015 season. Now, I've done this for a couple of years now, where I've gone through an F1 season and ranked my top 5 drivers overall, the guys that stood out to me the most over the course of the 2015 season. Some names you're probably used to expecting by now, other names you might not be. But that's what makes these lists so fun. So, without further ado, here is me and my top 5 drivers of the F1 2015 season.
At number 5, Max Verstappen. I know, you're all surprised he's not a little bit higher up this list, aren't you? Like I said on my website, harrison101.com, I do actually think Verstappen's season overall was a little bit overrated. I mean, it's not like his season was perfect and he could be deeper up the list, but there's some things I did notice about him. One, he was brilliant when races got a little bit crazy. Like, his two best results, his two fourth places at Hungary and Kota was in the middle of carnage-filled races. That's something that deserves props, but at the same time, I was like, huh? Some of his overtakes are a little bit overrated, given how he was on, superior tyres often to many of the people he was passing, like Nasser in Belgium and Nasser again at Monza. But overall, I think on just about any measure, he was Rookie of the Year. He racked up the points where he needed to. He had points finishes in 8 out of his last 10 races. And more than anything else, it was the best compliment I can say about Max is that he didn't drive like an 18-year-old, or so he thought an 18-year-old might drive like. He drove like he'd been here for 5 years, and I applaud him for often taking gambles and risks that many other drivers just would not do. His season was far from perfect, especially at the start of the year, but he got better as time went on. So for me, Max Verstappen is my number 5 pick. A great season, Rookie of the Year, just not quite, in my opinion, Driver of the Year worth. Number 4 is Daniil Kvyat, and there's a good reason why I've picked Daniil Kvyat in the number 4 slot, and it goes back to a little bit of context. And I remember last year when John-Eric Verne did not get the Red Bull seat last year, and they went with Kvyat instead, and Christian Horner said the reason why they went with Kvyat instead was because they reckoned he had more potential than Verne did. Well, what can you say? First season in the books, he came out and beat Daniel Ricciardo, who everybody hopped on his bandwagon last year when he slaughtered Sebastian Vettel in 2014. Everybody was saying Ricciardo was an elite driver, future world champion, all that talk. Kvyat beat him straight up this year. Ouch. And everybody's off that wagon again real quick with Ricciardo. But hey, he booty pops on Instagram, so I guess that counts for something, right? But Kvyat was very, very good in his overall season. He was always in the mix for good points. He often kept Ricciardo very, very honest over the course of the season. And he had a couple of great drives in his own right, including Hungary, where he finished a second place, which was arguably Red Bull's best performance of the year, outside of Singapore, which was kind of a freak race in circumstance. Kvyat is not going to get the credit that a lot of people would give him, unfortunately, I think because Ricciardo is so popular and likeable. But I want to give Kvyat his props for what was a great first season with the big teams. You know, if we're willing to give Ricciardo such credit for his first year in the big team, I think we should give the same respect to Daniil Kvyat. So great job from him this year. Number 3, and if there is ever a reward for most improved driver, it would most likely go to Sergio Perez. What a season he had. The Russia podium doesn't tell the full story. I do believe he was the 4th highest scorer behind the big 3 of Vettel, Rosberg and Hamilton after the summer break for being so ultra consistent. He was fantastic. Now, a lot of this also has to give credit to Force India for building a very, very good and very underrated all-round performer in their 2015 B-Spec car that came out. But Perez was exceptional this year, especially in the second half. Had some great drives, often made better use of alternative strategies, and whenever there's an opportunity there, Sergio Perez so often takes it. He has a knack for this. But overall, his racecraft has improved, and I'm so glad he's developed the consistency which I was so hoping he would have, because Perez has always been good for 1 or 2 freak performances a year. This time around, he was great. The second half of the season, across the board, he was very, very good indeed, and he's developed the consistency I was hoping he was going to have 3 or 4 years ago. And when he was doing so well at Sauber, this is the driver I was hoping Sergio Perez was going to be. He was so good, maybe we'll see him in contention for better seats again down the road. Great job from Sergio, and much credit to him. Number 2, Sebastian Vettel. Haha, you all thought it was even number 1, didn't you? Haha, gotcha. But in all seriousness, Sebastian Vettel, I think he was exceptional this season. I don't think he could have done much more with that Ferrari than what he did this year. 13 podiums, 17 times he finished in the top 5. If he saw the checkered flag of a Grand Prix, he was in the top 5 every single time this season. And scoring 270 plus points and actually giving Nico Rosberg a good run for his money towards the end of the year. If it wasn't for that Mexico bad day at the office, he would have given Rosberg a good run for second till the end of the year. But overall, a brilliant season from Sebastian Vettel. One that I think that would shatter a lot of preconceived notions about him after 2014, a season where a lot of people had, sent him hate and criticism, and deservedly so after that season where, a lot of people reckoned he might have been exposed and Ricciardo had done the business on him, and many people have started to have questions about Seb and his legacy after what had happened. And I think this was the perfect way he was able to go out of his way to prove that, Vettel is a world-class driver. He doesn't need Adrian Newey, and he doesn't need the best car to necessarily win. And I think, it's very hard to argue that he wasn't at least a contender for Driver of the Year, given that we've often given Fernando Alonso so much credit for doing great things in cars that weren't good enough to win championships. So, again, I think Seb deserves the same treatment. A brilliant job from Sebastian Vettel this year, and much credit to him. And my number 1 pick, and my Driver of the Year, shocker everybody, it's Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, no real argument on this one, and I have to applaud Lewis Hamilton for the way he's gone about this season. I mean, he was very easy to criticise for having this celebrity life that many people thought was a distraction, but he actually eliminated the one weakness in his game going into this season. That was his qualifying pace. It's easy to forget Nico Rosberg won the pole trophy, but often couldn't convert his wins from pole position. And given the way Merck's strategy works, and a lot of people have complained about that this year, qualifying ends up being a really important thing at Mercedes, and Lewis was exceptional in that regard this year. Yeah, he let it slip towards the end of the season a little bit, but it was already over, so who really gives a shit? Lewis Hamilton was exceptional this year. He became the first driver in F1 history to record back-to-back 10-win seasons. He, is now the 3rd most successful driver of all time on wins alone. He became a triple world champion, and, he had a much more convincing time of beating Nico Rosberg than he did last year, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. And, it's a shame, I think, the way these things work, where Driver of the Year almost automatically goes to the world champion. But, again, there's no argument for it. He was exceptional this year, and again, he still remains the gold standard and the man to beat in the field right now, and I think as long as Merckx continues to be at the front at the top of the field, I think that's something that will continue on down the road. So here's hoping in 2016 Nico can provide a better challenge, but for overall, my Driver of the Year, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, a couple of disclaimers before I go. Number 1, Verstappen I still thought had an overrated season in context, but I still felt he deserved a spot in the top 5. Nico Rosberg was beaten much more handily this year than he was last year, hence why he didn't make my top 5. And I was very, very tempted to put Sebastian Vettel in the number 1 spot. I was very tempted. And you know what? I think there's an argument you could make that he could be in that number 1 position. Did anybody have him there, apart from me? Apart from, a few other people? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But again, let me know what you thought of the list. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, I've been Harris. Well, I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.